Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Bakari Lumumba back once again at regenerativeLumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we can gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Also, doing with the Bequaline Network, the Pan African Media Extraordinaire, and we're going to be discussing. This is rather a light show, I would say. Right, we're going to be talking about preview and prediction for the big fight this evening. As many of you all know who follow my channel, I am a huge boxing fan. I consider myself a boxing aficionado. And so we're going to be discussing the super fight, I would even argue, this evening between Devin the Dream Haney, 31-0, 15 knockouts, and King Ryan Garcia, 24-1, with, excuse me, 20 knockouts taking place at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York City. Main event starts at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here, Saturday, April 20th, 2024. So if you're watching, family, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe and like button as well. And so, of course, I'd love to hear you all tap in, tell me who you all think are going to win. But one of the things that we found, of course, at the weigh-in was that Ryan Garcia came in 3 pounds overweight. There's been a lot of publicity regarding what many believe to be his mental health issues, right? There's an argument that he suffered from mental health issues. He made some claims sometimes that he was able to actually see demons. He talked about he was a child. He was actually kidnapped and taken to the woods and had to was forced to watch children be sexually assaulted. So he's made a number of crazy statements. Oscar De La Hoya, of course, his promoter, the Golden Boy, the CEO and president of Golden Boy Promotion, stated that this is simply a situation in which he's seeking to promote the fight. Many have argued that Ryan Garcia is truly suffering from mental health issues. Even Teddy Atlas, the famed Hall of Fame trainer Teddy Atlas, stated that he believes the fight should not be taking place and that the New York State Boxing Commission should be excoriated and run out of town on a pike for allowing this fight to take place. So that's one issue. Then we're talking about Devin the Dream Haney. Many argue that he's the best pure boxer since one Floyd Money Mayweather, Pretty Boy Floyd, aka Money Mayweather. He's 31-0, 15 knockouts. Former undisputed lightweight champion, moved up in his last fight in December and beat Regis Prograis for the WBC title at super lightweight, as 140 pounds, and really put on a masterclass performance, won every round, knocked him down in the third round, and actually dominated every second of the fight. And so here we are, super fight. We know Ryan Garcia lost at this time last year to Gervonta Tank Davis in their super fight. He was knocked out on the 7th round, body shot. He argues that he was weight drained, that he took the rehydration clause, that he couldn't gain more than 10 pounds the next morning after the weigh-in. So that weakened him going into the fight. But he said he did it for the sport of boxing. He comes in at 143. He argues that he's going to be hydrated. He's going to be strong. He's going to be powerful. And so it comes down to, many argue, the speed and, of course, power of Ryan Garcia's left hook. And then, of course, the boxing ability of Devin Haney. Most prognosticators argue that Ryan Garcia is the faster fighter, the more powerful fighter, but that Devin the Dream Haney is the more skilled fighter. So this is where we're going to tap in, family, in terms of who I think is going to win the fight, So, of course, as you know, here on Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on Black. And so I think it's no surprise that I'm going to go with Devin the Dream Haney. I think that he's going to win the fight. I think he could outbox him. However, I do believe that if he's overconfident, we know at the weigh-in, his father stated, and then, of course, Devin the Dream Haney reiterated that they were going to meet Ryan Garcia in the middle of the ring. I think that is a tactical error on their part if they choose to do so, right? Ryan Garcia, even though he may lack some of the technical skills that Devin the Dream Haney has, many have argued that Ryan Garcia has not progressed in his boxing ability and style since the amateur days, but he has faster hands and he's a stronger fighter, has a bigger punch. And Devin the Dream Haney is known for being a pinpoint puncher rather than a power puncher. However, I believe if he fights a disciplined fight, Mayweather was known for saying, we're going for the knockout. Then Mayweather would go in there and be defense first, counter punch, pop shot, create angles, and win on points. So I believe that if Devin the Dream Haney, of course, fights the fight that he should fight, he's the smarter fighter, he's the better fighter, the more skilled fighter, then he should win. However, I do think that Ryan Garcia has a puncher's chance due to his hand speed, phenomenal hand speed, and, of course, power. However, he is susceptible to what counters. We saw that in the second round in the fight with Gervonta Tank Davis. He tends to kind of come in with an amateur type style to where he just tries to rush the guy. And of course, he opens himself up. I think the difference here is the fact that I don't think that Devin Dream Haney has the power to drop him the way, of course, Tank Davis did. So, family, I'm gonna put the link in the chat. I do believe the link is in the description. If you're watching on Twitter, please leave a comment or tap in here on YouTube here at Lumumba Speaks in the Bequan Network. Definitely want to get you all's thoughts regarding who do you think is going to win the big fight this evening. And then, of course, we could even talk about the state of boxing here in 2024. What are some of the fights that you want to see? Some of those fights are even actually coming to fruition. We look at Beterbiev versus Bivol for an undisputed light heavyweight championship. The world is going to be taking place in June. However, one of the biggest fights that people are calling for and we have not seen is the fight between Canelo Alvarez and, of course, the Mexican monster, who was, of course, Mexican monster. Golly, I can't even call his name. Give me 1 second, family. I want to make sure I get this right. Mexican monster. Yeah, David Benavidez. I'm sorry. Yeah, David Benavidez. Everyone's calling for the fight. David Benavidez is, of course, Canelo Alvarez is mandatory. And Canelo Alvarez said, unless you give me 150 million, 200 million, I'm not going to fight the guy. Many argue that, of course, he's ducking and dodging him because he believes that he will lose. I even can recall the former pound for pound number one in the world. We're talking about none other than Andre SOG Ward. He was on a podcast and he was being interviewed and he said, I don't think Canelo Alvarez will fight David Benavidez because he truly believes and knows that he can possibly lose to him. All right. And so we know that Canelo Alvarez is he's the goose with the golden egg. He lays the golden egg and he is the cash cow. He's the biggest money maker in boxing outside of Anthony Joshua. So as a result, he's ducking that fight. Many people want to see the fight between, of course, Tank Davis, Gervonta Tank Davis, Shakur Stevenson, skill versus will, power, speed, so on and so forth, defense versus offense, modern day Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. And so there's been some stalling there. We know that Tank has a fight coming up and Shakur has a fight coming up. And so hopefully after those fights clear, we can see them actually fight for a title. But it's my prediction that if Devin the Dream Haney fights a disciplined fight, he outboxes Ryan Garcia rather than trying to slug with him, he will come away successful, victorious as the winner of the contest. Also, I think what is noteworthy is as a result of Ryan Garcia coming in 3 pounds overweight, he is not eligible to win the WBC super lightweight title. And so this is a fight in which Haney is not at risk of losing the title. So it's a non-title fight. Ryan Garcia went on social media and said the belt only collect dust. And I'm paraphrasing here. He says he's concerned with legacy rather than a belt, right? So, and I do think that if he's coming in at 143 and he's stating that coming dropping out of 140, it would drain him. I think that we can see Ryan Garcia moving to 147, which of course is known as the welterweight division, which is one of the glamour divisions in boxing. If you don't know, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, and then of course heavyweight are the glamour divisions in boxing. So let's see his snapshot reviews. Says a lot of folks are unsure where Garcia's head is at right now. Yes, many people are making an argument. Oscar De La Hoya, as I said earlier, stated that he's simply trying to sell the fight. Many individuals, including Teddy Atlas, believe that's not the case. He's suffering from true mental health issues. It would even appear that he was drinking beer at the weigh-in. Now, we do know that the actual weigh-in was at 11 a.m. and this was just simply a media weigh-in. But the cause for concern, I think, is pretty heavy. We do see that one moment he's saying, praise Jesus, I'm doing this for children. Then the next he's screaming, suck my D. Hey, but no Diddy, right? So I think this is a real issue where you say this guy's kind of all over the place. If you want to be someone who's a Christian and promotes the gospel of Jesus Christ, then, okay, that's understandable. Many fighters have done that at Evander Holyfield, Andre Ward, but they don't behave in a manner that really, truly is unbecoming. And actually, I would even argue, undermines the very message that you're trying to promote and sing, right? So something to consider there. 7-7 says, who wins? I got, as you all know, here at Lumumba Speaks, we always bet on black. And I believe that Devin Haney will win a unanimous 12-round decision. But I do think there's a possibility that if he actually boxes a disciplined fight he goes into the later rounds, he can't stop Ryan. I think he'll win maybe by a technical KO in which the ref stops the fight, or maybe Ryan actually quits and quits on the stool. So great question. I appreciate that. Let's see here. He said he was saying some disturbing things on Andrew Tate show a few weeks ago. So tap in Snapshot Reviews. I'm not privy to what he was stating on the show. So if you could tap in, the links in the chat, the links in the description, and you could share with us in the audience, what is it that he was saying that was rather disturbing? I heard about that, but I didn't actually get a chance to see it. I've been extremely busy this week. So definitely want you to tap in and let me know what was said. And of course, are you going to be watching the fight? 7-7 want to know who do you think is going to win as well. But the links in the chat, the links in the description. If you're watching, make sure you hit the thumbs up button, subscribe, like, and share. Hit that notification bell as well for future videos. We're discussing my preview and prediction of the super fight between Devin the Dream Haney and King Ryan Garcia this evening. The actual show starts at 8 p.m. The expectation is that the main event will begin at 11 p.m. at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York City. Be there, be square. You know, I'm going to watch the fight. I watch every big fight. I'm a huge fight fan, boxing aficionado. Actually used to do some amateur fighting myself, right? But, you know, when you get older, you have children, you have to deal more with your responsibilities more than what your likes and your wants. So, but hey, every now and then I still get in there and mix it up, get in the ring and mix it up. So it's all love. But I definitely want to hear from you all. Who do you think would win? And many of you may be arguing, why are you doing a show on boxing? We know you're a big boxing fan, but you typically tackle serious issues on your platform. And that's true. I think that's a great question. But I think also we understand that there's a racialized nature of boxing, right? There's a racialized nature regarding boxing, in which oftentimes Black fighters are underpromoted, paid less. I could think of, and I see your question, 7-7, I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Many people took umbrage with Floyd Mayweather, right, to going from pretty boy to money, right? And then of course having this kind of bad boy persona with the media. But what many people don't understand is that Floyd Mayweather was very intelligent. He said, listen, the last 5 pound for pound champions of the world were African Americans. Roy Jones Jr., Bernard Hopkins, Pernell Whitaker, and James Lights Out Tony, right? None of these guys were box office attractions. Floyd said, no, if I'm going to do this and dedicate my life to this, I'm going to make real money. And so that's why he created the money persona as a way to build his brand and, of course, be someone that people hated so much that they would pay to see you lose. And, of course, in the paying to see him lose, he became the most financially successful boxer in the history of the sport. So I think these are some of the issues we have to look at. In fact, if you really want to do a deeper dive into understanding some of the racialized mechanisms of boxing, there's a great book by the retired New York City columnist, William C. Rowland, titled $40 Million Slaves, The Rise, Fall, and Redemption of the African-American Athlete. Let me bring this up. And there's a chapter in there that deals with the history, right? The history of anti-Blackness in the boxing industry, right? So we're not just talking about in America, but we're talking about globally, right? And he gives a historiographic overview. So actually, I'm gonna pull this up because I definitely want everyone to see this here. And brother says Floyd knew how to play the game. I think I would even argue that in some ways Floyd created the game, right? He created a new game, right? In terms of how to promote himself and make sure as the A side, you always make sure that you are number one in those negotiations. So as you can see here, family, $40 Million Slaves, the Rise, Fall, and Redemption of the Black Athlete. As you can see, I purchased this book back in September of 2015, read it several times. So definitely check that book out. There's a chapter in the book. Let's see, I might even be able to find it behind me here. Oh, yeah, here we go. Give me 1 second, family. And there's a chapter in the book here where he talks about the boxing issue of boxing. Wait, yeah. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it, family. Let me give me 1 second. Conclusion without power. Maybe not. Yeah, here we go. I got it. All right. Yeah, the dilemma. So chapter 2, actually, titled The Plantation. He talks about the issue of dilemma, the dilemma of physical bondage, chapter 2 in the book. deals with the history of anti-blackness in boxing. So make sure you check that out, family. All right. What do you think about both Canelo and Manny giving Garcia the edge if he is mentally there? So I think here's the issue. Garcia has the edge in speed. He has the edge in power, right? So I think that's one of the issues. And so I think, and this makes me think of the fight between Zab Judah and Floyd Mayweather. Zab gave Floyd an actual challenge those first 4 rounds because Zab actually had faster hands than Floyd. And it was, many would argue, a bit of a bigger puncher. So I think that's part of the issue, right? And so if he sticks around, he has a puncher's chance. I think the further the fight goes, skills pay the bills, right? And so as a result, class tells over time, and Haney will be able to, of course, come out on top. But I do understand, just from a speed standpoint and a power standpoint, that, you know, typically if you're the faster fighter, that can mask a lot of the mistakes you make because you're simply beating the guy to the punch. So I think that's maybe what they're arguing. Floyd knew how to play the game. I had this combo a few years ago with some friends. I was like, how is it that if any matches need to get made, you have to go through Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn, no matter how big the boxer is, right? So we're talking about the politics of boxing. Haney has dynamite in both hands, but he drops his guard a lot, and he doesn't move his head enough. He has a serious chin, though. Well, so this is, I'm gonna have to seriously disagree with you. And I know you're from the Illidale, so you know, boxing capital. But Haney isn't a big puncher at all. He's a pinpoint puncher, but Haney is not a big puncher at all. You can see that by his less than 50% KO rate. He has 31 wins, but only 15 knockouts, right? One of the critiques I have on Haney is that he's billed as the greatest boxer since Floyd Mayweather Jr., that he's a defensive tactician, right? Defensive dynamo, defensive wizard, but he gets hit a lot more than I think he should. And part of that is, in my opinion, I think he does great work, and then he does something that I would do. That was one of my flaws when I boxed. You do some great work, meaning you land a combination, you counter punch, and then you stand there right in front of the guy rather than moving off the line. So I think that is the issue. And we did see the issue of him not moving his head at times when he fought Lomachenko. Snapshot reviews. I said the top black boxers could start their own thing, but everyone was saying that they get taken out. Now, all fights have gotten through the sides. Yeah, so that is true. I think another issue when we talk about the business of boxing is oftentimes, you know, the promoters who are black don't do their fighters well. So we know Al Heyman is a great promoter. He pays his fighters generously, but they typically don't fight top guys. We could think of one, Don King, who of course is from Ohio by way of Cleveland, but he's a horrible promoter. He actually does his fighters dirty. So just some things to consider when we talk about, you know, black people being in a controlled industry, but the individuals who are actually at the top typically don't have people's best interests at heart. I give Haney the edge, but seems unfair to make Garcia a 6-1 underdog with just one loss to Tank. But I think the issue is, before the Tank fight, Garcia's one step up was against that white kid that won a medal in the Olympics. I forget his name. Let me look it up. I can look it up real quick. And he even struggled in that fight, but he ended up winning by KO body shot. Let's see here. Let's see, box rec. So I think that's part of the issue. The other issue is when he stepped up against Tank, I mean, he was blown out the water, if you want to be completely honest. I mean, he looked like an amateur, not only on offense, but even on defense. I know that was one of the critiques. Yeah, Luke Campbell, he fought Luke Campbell. He won by KO, but he even struggled in that fight. So that's one of the major issues, is that when he went up against Tank, he looked like an amateur at times, right? And so the argument is that he isn't seasoned enough. You know, this is only his second fight with his new trainer, Derek James. We know Derek James was trainer of the year, but his top two guys in his stable, when they had their top fights, biggest fights of their career, they looked like ass, right? When Earl Spence fought Crawford, I called that he would get his ass whooped, and he did get his ass whooped. When Jermell Charlo went up against Canelo, he looked like he was afraid for his life, right? And so there's a lot of arguments in terms of his fighters do not have the boxing IQ to beat guys. If they win, it's typically because they're weight bully and they wear guys down. They're bigger, stronger, not even faster, but bigger and stronger. So that's something to consider as well. So those are my thoughts, family. If you all want to tap in, be part of the conversation, or we're previewing and, of course, predicting who's going to win the super fight this evening between Devin the Dream Haney and Ryan Garcia. I think Haney's left hook to the body and straight right hand can drop anybody at 35 if it lands clean. But here's the issue. Name somebody he dropped at 35. So that's cool. I appreciate you tapping in. But name someone that Devin Haney dropped at 135 pounds. That was at least a gatekeeper. He fought Diaz, who moved up from 130. Couldn't drop him. And he was hitting him flush. Lomachenko, he hit that man with about a million body shots. Couldn't stop him. Couldn't even drop him. He fought Linares. He was piecing him. Couldn't drop him. Didn't even stagger him. He doesn't have power, right? He's an accurate puncher, but he's not a power puncher. He does not have dynamite in his hands. I would even dare say, and of course I'm being a bit facetious here, that my daughter punches harder than him. We just got to keep it a buck. You got to be honest. Like you do not have dynamite in both hands, and you only have 15 knockouts and 31 fights. Tank was a catch weight with a rehydration clause, though. Absolutely, that is very true. Haney is the fave for sure, but I hope it's interesting. Many people argue that if the fight goes past 4 rounds, that Haney is going to win because Garcia is simply going to implode due to the mental health issues that he's having. Many people liken this to Lennox Lewis's rematch. Let me see. I'll pull this up here. Lennox Lewis's rematch with so I'll bring up his brother. Was it McCall? Oliver McCall. Yeah, many people argue his rematch with Oliver McCall was an example of that, known as the Atomic Bull from Chicago, Illinois. Oliver McCall had a lot of issues, right? A lot of issues going into the fight. I think that he spent maybe half of the training camp at a rehab center, dealing with alcoholism. He was going through a divorce. And so, of course, that was the situation. We know that Lennox Lewis is a tremendous right-hand puncher. He hit him with a flush right hand, and he just started crying, right? Just wow. So we see this type of thing happens. I know from someone who at one point boxed, you have to be laser focused, locked in mentally, right? The only person I've ever seen that was able to go into a fight and be laser focused and fight and put on a tremendous performance, even though they had chaos taking place in their personal life, was Floyd Mayweather Jr. I've never seen any other fighter be able to do that. So I think that is something to consider when we talk about the fight. And if Ryan Garcia has a fighting chance, do you think Garcia's heavyweight will have a big effect on the fight? Actually, I don't. Right? I think he may be able to take a punch better, but I don't think it'll have an effect because Devin Haney typically rehydrates to the mid 160s, right? His fight with Prograis was the first fight of super lightweight, which is 140 pounds. The night of the fight, he weighed 165, right? So the night of the fight, he weighed as much as a super middleweight. So I don't think that's going to be an issue, right? The concern is if Garcia is physically and mentally fit enough to compete, go 12 rounds against a world-class fighter who is in many reputable publications top 10 pound for pound list, right? And so, of course, my pound for pound number one is, of course, is Terence Crawford. He's 1A. Then 1B is Inoue, right? Little homie from Japan. So that definitely tap in, family. Want to hear what you all have to say. Of course, I'm always betting on black, so I'm taking Devin Haney by late round stoppage. I think he's going to stop him late. I'm looking at maybe a 9th, 10th round stoppage, technical stoppage, to where he's just going to be able to start, accumulating damage, breaking him down if he uses his superior boxing skills, superior boxing ability. And as a result, he's going to actually win the fight. So tap in, family. I want to know what you all think. Once again, the link is in the chat. The link is in the description. If you're watching on Twitter, you can tap in over here at Lumumba Speaks. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to actually put the link in the comments on Twitter if you want to tap in and be part of the conversation. And then, of course, since I've given my prediction, we can also, discuss the state of boxing, right? The state of boxing. What are some of the fights you all are looking forward to seeing? So definitely going to make that happen, family. Want to hear what you all have to say regarding the super fight this evening between Devin the Dream Haney and King Ryan Garcia. So one question I would have for you all is, do you believe that the fight will go 12 rounds? Do you believe the fight will go 12? Do you believe the fight will go 12? And if you're watching, family, make sure you tap in, but also hit that subscribe, like button, notification bell as well. But the question I have is, do you believe the fight will go 12, right? Will it go 12 rounds? I'm betting the under. Matter of fact, I might actually bet something, right? I think my homeboy told me about DraftKings. I think the fight will not go 12 rounds. I don't think the fight will go 12 rounds. So tap in, family. I want to know what you all think. You're watching Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network. We're having a light show today. We're not discussing a serious issue. But we do know that historically, our people have lived vicariously through sports figures. I think, of course, if you go back to the 40s and 50s, the African community in particular lived vicariously through what? The Brown Bomber, Joe Louis, Ashe Black Power. And so, of course, it was considered that when he was winning for the Black community as well. We think of one Muhammad Ali, who, of course, has some Pan-Africanist vibes. And so we know that even when he had this major fight in Zaire, now known as Congo, against George Foreman, the community was rooting for him because of his Pan-Africanist leanings. And so we know that historically this is something that's taken place. And there's another big fight between, of course, an African-American and then, of course, a Mexican-American. This is something that's taken place on a number of occasions. I think of one of the most famous was Medrick Taylor, his, I believe, 1990-1991 fight against Julio Cesar Chavez, where the fight was stopped with 2 seconds left. If it would just ended and went to the cards, Taylor would have won. But of course, his career went on an epic downward spiral after that fight. And so we know Blacks and Latinos have given us a lot of great fights. I think of Floyd Mayweather versus Oscar De La Hoya. I could think of Floyd Mayweather against Castillo. I could think of Floyd Mayweather against Corrales, right? Floyd Mayweather against Hernandez when he won his first title. And so we know that this is a big thing in boxing when we have African Americans or black people fight against the Latino community. So we're definitely going to always bet on Black. But once again, family, if you're watching, the link is in the chat. I also put the link in the comments on Twitter if you want to tap in and be part of the conversation. And the question I'm asking is twofold. One, do you think the fight will go 12 rounds? And two, what fights do you want to see this year, right? And we all know we have the epic heavyweight unification fight coming up between, of course, Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. So I think I would do a show on that as well, a preview and prediction of who will win that fight. We know Usyk is considered by many to be the third best fighter pound for pound in the world behind Terence Crawford and Inoue. But of course, he's going to be at a substantial size disadvantage against Tyson Fury, who typically comes in at 6'9", 207 pounds. However, he did outbox Anthony Joshua in their 2 fights. However, we do know and have seen that Usyk is susceptible to the body. The question is, how will Tyson Fury fight? How will he train? Will he come in shape, ready to go? Because we do know that he did not look good against our brother from the UFC in MMA. So once again, family, tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to get you all's thoughts regarding the super fight this evening between Devin the Dream Haney and King Ryan Garcia. Who are you taking? Who are you picking, and why? And what fights do you want to see coming up the rest of this year? And do you believe the fight will go 12 rounds? So those are the questions I have. Definitely want to hear what you all have to say. Fury beats Usyk on points. AJ then KOs him at Wembley. Oh, but you got to tap in. So I got to hear this. And I could get that. But why do you think AJ will beat Fury? That's what I got to hear, brother. I please, I'm almost begging you. Tap in, brother. I want to hear why you believe that AJ will KO Fury. Because I have my views on the potential fight between Joshua and Fury, and I want to hear what you have to say. So please tap in 77 regarding your thoughts on a potential fight between Fury and Usyk, pending Fury beating Usyk on points and then beating Usyk again in the rematch. So tap in, brother. Tap in. I definitely want to have that conversation with you. Family, also, once again, we're discussing the super fight between Devin the Dream Haney and, of course, Ryan Garcia. It's been widely publicized that for many, they believe that Ryan Garcia is suffering from mental health issues. His camp argues that's not the case. He's simply seeking to promote the fight. However, many people took umbrage with the fact that it appeared that when he came on stage for the media weigh-in, we know the actual weigh-in with the actual WBC took place at 11 a.m. on Friday, but the media weigh-in was scheduled for 2 o'clock, didn't take place until about 4. He got on the scale drinking what appeared to be a beer, right? So definitely want to hear what you all have to say. I think there was a brother, they even talked about his interview with Andrew Tate, snapshot reviews. If you could tap in, brother, be part of the conversation. I want to hear about some of the things he had to say on his interview with Andrew Tate. Fury is a different man since the Ngannou fight, and AJ is now back to the old AJ, letting his hands go. So I can understand, in terms of Fury, you're only as good as your last fight, your last performance. Understand that completely. But here's why I'm going to push back. AJ let his hands go against someone who was a novice. AJ let his hands go against someone that he was supposed to blow out the water, right? Someone who makes, to be quite honest with you, insipid, rudimentary mistakes. It's easy to let your hands go against a guy that you have outclassed. Does he let his hands go the way he should? When he fought the white kid who was a southpaw, I didn't like the performance. Even though he knocked him out, he broke his nose. I think there were a lot of things he could have done better. Same when he fought Usyk, right? I think he allows Usyk to have the advantage of the southpaw and land his jab and be able to create angles that if he actually had the boxing IQ that he should have, that wouldn't take place. So, but definitely 7-7. Want you to tap in, be part of the conversation. I want to hear your thoughts, particularly regarding the AJ Fury potential super fight in Wembley. We're talking about London, England. I mean, I think they could probably set, if that fight took place, they probably could break the Mayweather-Pacquiao pay-per-view numbers. I truly believe that is possible. I truly believe that is possible. But tap in, family. We're discussing the state of boxing this evening, as well as want to get your preview and prediction of the super fight this evening between Devin the Dream Haney and, of course, King Ryan Garcia. Tap in if you want to be part of the conversation. You do not have to show your face, or you do not have to cam up, and you can use your pseudonym. I know for many of you, you may want to maintain your anonymity, and so that's completely understandable. But tap in, be part of the conversation. You're watching Lumumba Speaks and Bequalon Network, the Pan-African Media Extraordinaire, as we discuss who will win the super fight this evening. So 7-7. Let me know if you saw the link in the comments on Twitter, and let me know if you're willing to be part of the conversation. Right? We definitely want to know if you're willing to be part of the conversation. But I think we have a great conversation, particularly about the Usyk, not the Usyk. I'm sorry, the Fury, potential Fury Joshua fight. So make sure you tap in, family. Definitely want to hear what you all have to say this evening regarding the super fight. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Definitely want to hear what you have to say. So 7-7 says Deontay Floyd Fury, though, and his boxing IQ is much worse than AJ. It would be a great fight, though. So that's understandable. But Deontay has next level power. I mean, Deontay Wilder, we know from a boxing ability, skill set, technical ability, he's trash, right? I mean, I'm just being honest. I would tell him this if he was standing next to me. So this isn't me being Facebook, YouTube tough, but his right hand is made of vibranium. There's no way around it. He's one of the hardest punchers in the history of the heavyweight division. I would probably put him around. He might even punch harder than Ernie Shavers, who is from Ohio, by the way. Everyone who matters is from Ohio. You all may not know that yet, but Ernie Shavers is from Ohio, from Northeast Ohio, from the Akron, Cleveland area. But yeah, he just literally has a right hand made of vibranium. AJ doesn't have that type of power. He has more of a thudding power, but he doesn't have the power to just really it's electric. Take your lights out with one punch. So I think that's part of the issue there as well. But I do understand that you can make the argument that Fury is susceptible, that he has a shaky chin at times, but we do know that irrespective of how shaky or questionable his chin is, he has the heart of a lion. So that is something to, of course, consider, that he has the heart of a lion. So once again, tap in, brother. I hope you can tap in and be part of the conversation. Once again, for everyone who's watching, tell me in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you believe Haney is going to win tonight's fight. Put a 2 in the chat if you believe Garcia is going to win tonight's fight. So once again, put a 1 in the chat if you're going with Team Haney. Put a 2 in the chat if you're going with Team Garcia. You all already know I'm going with Haney. Always been a black, superior boxer, better defensive fighter. I think he's really going to need to be on point this evening because of the speed and power of Garcia. And I believe that if he takes him into deep water, he will stop him before they go 12 rounds. So Sandman says number 1. Understood. And Sandman, I want you to tap in as well, because I'm going to ask you some questions about Hopkins. B-Hop, I'll argue that he's a top 3 middleweight of all time, right? Well, at top 4, actually, because I have Sugar Ray Robinson, Hagler, Monzon, and then, of course, B-Hop, number 4. But definitely want to get your thoughts in terms of how do you think B-Hop would have fared against Hagler, right? We know Hopkins has the height and the reach, but how do you think he would have fared against the marvelous Marvin Hagler? So I want you to tap in, brother, if you can, be part of the conversation. But you're going with Team Haney. Do you believe Team Haney will be able to win the fight within the 12-round distance? Definitely want to hear from you there. Once again, family, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Hit that notification bell as well for future videos. We're having a conversation this evening regarding the super fight coming up at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Brooklyn, New York, at the Barclays Center, home of the Brooklyn Nets. Super fight between Devin Dream Haney and King Ryan Garcia. My concern, of course, is will Ryan Garcia be mentally fit enough to actually be competitive and possibly win the fight? Many argue that he isn't mentally well. Some have even argued that, and this is coming, of course, from Team Haney, that he's bad for the sport, that they're going to get him out of boxing. They said their goal is to get him out of boxing. So that is something to consider as well. Do you believe that if Ryan Garcia loses this fight, particularly in embarrassing fashion, that he will be out of the sport for good? So that is something to consider as well. But tap in, family. I definitely want to hear you all's thoughts on this issue. But if not, we're going to close things out. So I'm going to keep it going for a little while, because I definitely want to get some opinions from the family here in these YouTube streets regarding who they believe will win this fight and why, as well as fights that they hope that we will be able to see later this year. For me, it's 2. It's Benavidez against Canelo, and then, of course, Shakur Stevenson against Gervonta Tank Davis. Those are the 2 fights I'm looking for. One would be, of course, in the lightweight division, and then the other in the super middleweight division, which, of course, is 168. So definitely want to hear from you all, family. So tap in, be part of the conversation. I know for many of you, you may not be a boxing fan, hardcore fan, or aficionado. I, of course, am a hardcore fan. So many of these guys I've known since they were amateurs, right? And we know the backstory to the Haney Garcia fight, that they fought 6 times in the amateurs. And they split those fights 3-3. Haney argued that the early fights, Garcia won as a result of course, Haney being a novice. But then when he got older and was boxing, had some seasoning, he actually won those fights when they were older, when they both were had enough equal experience. So tap in, family. Want to hear what you all have to say. If not, I'm going to log off, but definitely want to get you all's thoughts just on the state of boxing, fights you're looking forward to this evening, the fight, of course, your predictions on the fight this evening, and then, of course, last but not least, what fights are you looking forward to this year, right, 2024? So if not, family, appreciate you all for tapping in. Until next time, you all know what to do. Peace.